the RG Weekly. They still went to the Super Bowl and they still really only lost one regular season game. Here's the problem with that.
I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It won't shock me. It's Mike. Man, I told them that he's going to win 8 games. They look very, very, very different that they've been looking the past 4 or 5 years.
And like I said, he went to the Pro Bowl. The Patriots have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. Now look, this is a young team, so that's probably not going to happen. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another edition of the RG Weekly, our weekly NFL show where we tackle the biggest NFL topics. Right now, we're in an interesting time of the year because we're a month away from training camp, so this is kind of the dead zone. But, you know, we never stop over here at the RG, all right? We always cover sports, cover the NFL year-round, so we're here to fill your needs. Obviously, as always, you can follow us on YouTube at the RG Media 1, where we have our biggest interviews, not just the NFL, but all across sports on there, which you can check out, obviously. We just did the interview with Dallas Goedert not too long ago, Eagles Super Bowl champion tight end, where he talks about looking to repeat as a Super Bowl champion and how him and Jalen Hurts talked to Chicago Bulls great, NBA great Michael Jordan, and got his advice on how to remain hungry to continue winning. So check that out. But this week, it's a new week. I want to talk about something that's very interesting to me and a lot of fans, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. They're almost like an enigma now because it's like people forget how dominant the Chiefs have been over the past few years, and they weren't dominant last year, but they still went to the Super Bowl, and they still really only lost one regular season game. Because I'm not going to count the Week 18 game where they sat all their starters against the Broncos. So they lost one regular season game last year. They lost one regular season game before getting blown out by the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was embarrassing. But, you know, the bottom line is this is still a team with all their core players, with Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce, with head coach Andy Reid, with one of the top defenses in the NFL. But yet, a lot of people are down on them. A lot of people want to be ahead of the pack. They want to forecast their downfall before the start of this season. Here's the problem with that. Like I said before, they lost one regular season game. They lost one game last season before the Super Bowl. They were at their weakest last year. Patrick Mahomes did not play well. Patrick Mahomes had the worst statistical season of his career and still went 15-1 in the regular season. Do you realize why that's impressive? Not just because they win every close game. Now, you can blame the referees for that. You can blame Goodell. You can blame Taylor Swift. I really don't care. The bottom line is they win all their close games. That's a fact. They hold the NFL record for consecutive one-possession victories. That's 17. 12 of their 17 wins last season came by one possession. So you know that they're going to win in crunch time. They have the clutchest quarterback in the NFL in Mahomes. With that being said, people forget. Nobody's bringing this part up. They were missing their top 2 wide receivers last year. They were missing Marquise Brown and they were missing Rashee Rice. People forget Rice during the first 4 games of the season. He was off to a hot start. He had 24 receptions, 288 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was on pace for 100 receptions, Rice. 1,300 yards, okay? If he was in the equation, then you get Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown in there, a true deep threat. He proved that when he was with the Ravens. That's a completely different looking offense. They don't rank 15th in the NFL in scoring last year. They had those 2 guys. Brown played 2 games, Rice played 4 games. So we keep talking about all this stuff, all of these negative topics. I get it. People hate the Chiefs. People hate winners, just like they hated the Patriots for 2 decades. I remember that whole time period because I saw the whole time period from 2001 through 2019 when Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were together. People hate winners. The problem is this isn't like the end of the Patriots dynasty where Brady and Belichick, you know, their chemistry, they're moving away from each other. Brady's on the way out. And there's cracks in the foundation. Mahomes is 29 years old. Reed still has several years of head coaching left. There is no sign that he's retiring anytime soon. And while Travis Kelce may not be the game breaker, dynamic, all-time great tight end that he used to be, he is still a threat. So I know everybody is hating on the Kansas City Chiefs because they have consistently beaten your favorite team year in and year out. They did it again against the Buffalo Bills, by the way. 4 times now in the playoffs. Josh Allen just had an MVP year, best season of his career, carried that team again, did all the clutch heroics that we're accustomed to seeing from him, and he still came up short again. Because Mahomes and the Chiefs, they always make that one more clutch play than Josh Allen and the Bills. Ravens, they still have to prove that they can beat the Chiefs in the big game. They have yet to do that. Remember a couple of years ago, Lamar and the Ravens, they hosted that AFC Championship game. Lamar, another MVP year. Ravens, another amazing regular season, and they got dominated. The Chiefs controlled that game in the AFC Championship game in Baltimore. Bengals are going to be a threat, obviously. Broncos, a lot of people are picking them as a potential team that can threaten the Chiefs. They might be able to do it in the regular season. They consistently do it in the regular season, but I need to see it in the playoffs, and there are major questions at wide receiver for the Broncos. Chargers, they have a nice style of play. They control the ball. They don't turn the ball over with Herbert and their running backs, and they keep Mahomes off the field. They have one of the best head coaches in Harbaugh, but again, I need to see the Chargers actually win a playoff game, before I start putting them in the same category as the Chiefs. So you look at it going into this season, it's like what I said last week when I was on the Eagles topic. The Chiefs, they are the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFL, still. And it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to say that this is going to happen. It's a long season. We're in freaking late June. Injuries happen. Injuries affect outcomes. Injuries affect standings and the playoffs. Look at what happened to the Detroit Lions last year. But when you look at things on paper, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are absolutely still a threat. They're not on the decline. They are the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles as far as them repeating. Remember what I said. The Kansas City Chiefs, they are not going anywhere. I want to segue into our next topic, and that's one of the more interesting teams in the NFL this season, and that is the New England Patriots. Obviously, for 20 years when they had Brady and Belichick, they were the class of the NFL. They're arguably the greatest dynasty in NFL history, certainly the longest one at 20 years of success, 6 Super Bowl wins, multiple Super Bowl appearances, won division titles, I think in 17 of those 19 years from 2001 through 2019. Obviously, they've fallen on hard times as of late since Brady left, and now Belichick's no longer there. It's a completely new era now over there. They have Mike Vrabel as the new head coach, the old Patriots linebacker. He won 3 Super Bowl titles with the Patriots in the 2000s. They brought Josh McDaniels back as the offensive coordinator. Obviously moved on from Gerard Mayo as the head coach after 1 season. And Drake Maye is now your franchise quarterback. So the Patriots, they're a team that stands out to me because, their record was 4-13 last year. It's been 4-13 over the past 2 years. But they could very well be the sleeper team in the AFC. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win a Super Bowl this year. What I'm trying to say is that after 2 consecutive 4-win seasons, they could very well be in the playoff hunt. You look at this team over here, they kind of have some ingredients for success. Obviously, the proven head coach, the proven offensive coordinator, McDaniels, who every time he's in New England, they have a great offense. That's much needed considering they finished 30th in scoring last year. And then they have the franchise quarterback in Drake Maye, who actually went to the Pro Bowl in his rookie season. Now, obviously, Maye has a lot of strides to make. He took a lot of sacks last year. He had a sack rate of 9.1%, which was one of the highest in the NFL, but he completed nearly 67% of his passes. And like I said, he went to the Pro Bowl in his rookie year. You can't downplay that. They had some notable offseason additions, obviously. Former All-Pro and Pro Bowl wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who's looking to rebound from that injury that he suffered last year with the Texans. Added some key players like center Garrett Bradbury, defensive players like Harold Landry, Miller Williams, and Carlton Davis, the old Buccaneers defensive back. They add LSU tackle Will Campbell with the number 4 pick and running back Travion Henderson in the second round. So those pieces should all beef up the core and help the Patriots win more games and help protect Drake Maye. I spoke to Vince Wilfork not too long ago, former defensive tackle, former Patriots defensive tackle who won multiple Super Bowls there. Not only played with Vrabel as a teammate, but played under Vrabel when Vrabel became a coach with the Texans, where Wilfork spent the last couple of years of his career. And he gave some great analysis as to why he has high expectations for this Patriots team. In fact, he predicts them to win 8 games this season. Okay? And he talks about what makes Vrabel such a good head coach. He even says he could be the next Bill Belichick, as in, like, he could coach there for another 2 decades because Vrabel's only 50 years old. Key words he uses about Vrabel. He says he's an alpha, he's outspoken, and he also gives major compliments to Drake Maye, giving credit to the Patriots and Gerard Mayo for nailing it with that Drake Maye pick. Check out the interview with Wilfork right here. All right, man. So, yeah, quick overview of what we're going to be going over. Patriots, your former coaches, Super Bowl stuff. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me, brother.
Hey, I want to ask you some NFL-related topics. Obviously,
Yes,
New
sir.
England Patriots, you're best known for your Patriots career. They made a big move. You know, they parted ways with Gerard Mayo, moved on to Mike Vrabel. Thoughts on that whole thing going down?
Well, I thought I was kind of bummed out for Gerard. 1 year, I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but everybody knows, it was BS, and, it is what it is. But I love Mike Vrabel. I love Mike Vrabel as a coach. I think if Gerard wasn't going to be a head coach, the next best thing, is Mike. I played with Mike. I played up under Mike in Houston when he was a linebackers coach in Houston, and he became a defensive coordinator. And we all saw what he'd done when he went to Tennessee in the AFC Championship. So his resume is pretty good. And the one thing I really love about it, especially for the Patriots, is he's young. You're not getting a 70-year-old coach. And I think Mike would be one of those coaches where if everything goes the way I think it would go, he'll be there for 20 years. He'll be like Bill Belichick because he has what it takes. He has it. So it's hard to do, but I think Mike, being around him and understanding how he thinks and how he operates, it's going to be a good chance that he'll be there for a good while. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, obviously, like you're saying, he's young, he's proven, he's been to an AFC Championship game with the Titans. You haven't teamed up for him so long as teammates. What makes Vrabel such a great coach? What is his personality really like, for those who don't know him?
Vrabel, first of all, he's a good a-hole. That's what it is. I mean, he speaks from the heart. He tell you how he's an alpha, okay? He's going to demand respect on site. He's going to give you his opinion. He's very outspoken. He believes in what he believes in. When he speaks, you can just tell behind his talking and behind what he's saying, there's some juice behind it. He's a great teacher. That's one of the things as a coach, you have to be able to be a great teacher. And Mike is a very, very great teacher. Like I said, I had the luxury to play with him, and basically he coached, the defense that I was on in Houston. So I got a chance to be in meeting rooms with him, to pick his brain. And not only that, as a coach and a head coach, you have to know all aspects of the game. And I've seen him plenty of time with Tom, talking with Tom on the sideline, being in a quarterback's meeting room with Tom and Bill. Like, you talk about a defensive guy, right? And then you talk about another defensive guy that was so, he was such that guy. He played tight end. I think he got 5 catches for 5 touchdowns, something crazy like that. So he knows what he's doing. He's been in it, he played in it, and he's coaching, and he's shown that he got what it takes to be a head coach. And I'm glad that New England got him, because I think that was a great pickup for us, and it's good to see somebody go back to the organization that know how the organization is ran and know what it takes to get back to that winning caliber of football. And I think Mike gives us the best chance at that. And not only that, Talking about Josh McDaniels, he's bringing in as the offensive coordinator with a franchise quarterback. I don't know too much about his defensive coordinator, but everything I heard from him, I love it. He's an aggressive guy. I love to be aggressive. So I know he's not going to put anybody in the place that they're not going to show up, because he's going to hold his coaches accountable just like he holds his players. So, and they're going to hold Mike accountable. That's the type of person he is. So we're getting a well-rounded coach, a head coach up there in New England, and hopefully he'll get us back on the track of winning some football games, because that's what we, the past 2 decades, that's what we did. So we need to get back there. Losing sucks.
Yeah, Vince, you actually just segued into my next question. You brought up Josh McDaniels. So you have 2 proven coaches right now who are familiar with the Patriots way. As crazy of a question as this may sound, can you see the Patriots improving drastically in 2025, especially when considering, they have the franchise quarterback, they have the two coaches in place now?
Yes, I do. It won't shock me if they win 8 games or more. It won't shock me, because coaching comes down to little things, and yes, you need talent and you need pieces put together, but the main thing you need is a quarterback. And I think, Gerard nailed it with Drake last year, but he didn't start the season, but they, end up playing him. So they saw what they had and understand, like, hey, this guy can play. He's ready for the big leagues. So you have that. So now build around him. And then the first places I would go, we have to protect our franchise, right? So we have to get beef. We have to assure that the line, okay? And I'm a Lions guy, so I would do both sides. But start with the offensive line and skill, and I'll go skill position because he need weapons. So I think Mike, he knows what he's doing. He knows talent, and he's going to build that team the way it needs to be built. And I'm excited to see it. But it won't shock me for those guys to win 8 games this year, because I know that's the type of coach he is. And I know what he's going to demand from his players. I know that. So I'm looking forward to it. And I want to be sitting back saying, man, I told them that he's going to win 8 games.
Vince, you said 8 games, so you could see them possibly contending for a wild card berth. I mean, heck, the Broncos did it this year where they clinched a wild card berth. Nobody expected that.
Well, the thing is, the division you have to go, the division is always the division, but now with the Bills and, Dolphins, depending on how they play. So the division is going to be tough, but let me tell you something, it won't shock me that we be in the running and we look totally different than we did last year and the years previous in that, because you have to understand, trying to find a quarterback and be able to play a quarterback early, that's hard. It's very hard. And a lot of guys talk about, quarterbacks. I heard Tom talk about the difference in quarterbacks now and then, and they're not being developed. But you know what? You're not having just pocket passes anymore, and the game has changed so much, so it's easier for a quarterback to come in now. You got to have a head coach and an offensive coordinator to understand how to coach the guy in this, but it's easier now than it was then, because Tom and those guys, those great ones like Tom and Peyton, those guys, they were pocket passes. That's the only thing they had was their arm. But now you have guys can get out the pocket, can run the ball. So it's a different caliber of players back there now. So it's cool to see how the game has changed and just hear how, the old school quarterbacks talk about the quarterbacks these days. But for now, I love our quarterback. I think we found one, and that's the starting point.
Yeah, obviously that's the key, finding that franchise quarterback. I want to ask you, Josh McDaniels, he's always had such great success coaching in New England. What do you think he's going to be able to get out of Drake Maye as soon as his second season in New England next year?
Well, we got to wait and see, but I do know he's a mastermind when it comes to quarterbacks and offense. I mean, he can put together, and it's all about the schemes and strategies. He was with Tom for so long, and he knew Tom in and out, what Tom liked, what Tom didn't like. And they took chances and stuff like that. But I don't know how much more he can do with Drake, because Drake brings a different element. Like I said, with his legs, the college he's come from, he can get out of the pocket, he can move, he can hurt you on the ground. So it's going to be interesting to see what he draws up. But trust me, he will draw up something. I mean, it's going to be something every week. And I've seen those guys work on something for a whole year and they ain't running until they ran the proper one time towards the end of the season. But this is something that they started in the training camp. So that he's very schematic, when it comes to all that stuff, and very smart and very brilliant when it comes down to offensive and quarterback play. So Drake Maye in good hands in All-State, trust me.
Yeah, obviously, like you're saying, Drake and Tom, two very different quarterbacks. Drake has a lot more mobility than Tom, but Josh is a genius when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. It's safe to say that Josh is probably the best guy to maximize Maye's potential, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. It's like you're going out and you got an all-star cast at coaches. Like you just plucked one of the best offensive coordinators in the last 10, 20 years in Josh McDaniels. Like, so it's like to have him come aboard with a new coach and Mike, they know each other. We all, is in New England together, so they have some familiarity between one another. It's like, man, it's match made in heaven, honestly. Like, that's why I say I will not be shocked if they win 8 games or they look very, very, very different that they've been looking the past 4 or 5 years. Let's put it that way. I guarantee you they will.
Sounds good, Vince. All right, man.
Thank you, my man. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one, all right?
It's hard to argue against Wilfork's analysis. As you can see, all the things that he said are pretty spot on. Now, the only thing that remains to be seen is, okay, can the Patriots actually execute? Can they put it live? Can they make it an actual result where they do win 8 games, where they are in the playoff line? You look at the AFC conference, it's obviously a pretty stacked conference. We know that. It has the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It has Patrick Mahomes, it has Lamar Jackson, it has Josh Allen. I keep going on and on. CJ Stroud. So, here's the thing about the AFC. It's very top-heavy. You already know that the Chiefs are going to be back into the playoffs. They're probably going to win the AFC West again. Okay? You have the Baltimore Ravens, who are going to be duking it out with the Cincinnati Bengals for division supremacy in the AFC North. You have, obviously, the Houston Texans as the cream of the crop in the AFC South. And maybe Jacksonville, threatens, depending upon Trevor Lawrence and his development and how Travis Hunter turns out in his rookie year. And then you got the wild card team, the obvious wild card threats, which is the Broncos, the Chargers, and then you have potentially the Steelers, who have been there over the past couple of years, but they could be on the regression with a weaker roster, with a soon-to-be 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. We don't know how that's going to look. They might regress this season. So if that is the case, that means there's an open playoff spot in the AFC wild card chase. So the loser of the AFC North race, which is likely between the Ravens and Bengals, that's probably the team that's going to fill in there. But with that being said, you have the Broncos and the Chargers as the other 2 wild card teams in the AFC. Is it reasonable that the Patriots could be right there where the Chargers are at? Yeah. Is it reasonable that the Patriots could be right there where the Broncos are at? Yeah, potentially. And here's the reason why. The Patriots have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. I just named all the reasons right before the Wilfork interview. I named all the reasons why to believe in the Patriots. But 11 of their 17 games is against losing teams this season. They have the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL. Yes, even easier than the Bills. The Bills, I believe, have the 21st hardest schedule in the NFL, which is a weak schedule, but the Patriots have the 30th hardest schedule in the NFL. They have the 3rd easiest. You look at these first few games. They play the Raiders. That should be a win right there. They play the Dolphins. You would think that they could win right there. They play the Steelers. Possible win right there. Panthers should be a win. Bills, probably a loss in Buffalo. Okay, you get to week 6, Saints. Saints might have the worst record in the NFL this season. They're not trying to win games. That should be a win. Titans, who just had the number 1 overall pick this year. That should be a win. Browns, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Win. Falcons, possible win. You look at right there, there's only one obvious loss within their first 9 games. I'm not going to predict that they're going to win 8 of those 9 games, but is it possible that they do? Sure. Will they probably do it? No, but you look at those 9 games, in 8 of those 9 games, they're very winnable for the Patriots. That right there should set them up for a path to at least contend for an AFC wildcard spot and like Vince Wilfork says, win 8 games this season. Right there, by the 9th game, they could, or should at least, one could argue, have 8 wins by the midway point of the season. Now look, this is a young team, so that's probably not going to happen. This is a young team. They don't know what it's like to win. Yeah, they have a veteran head coach. Yeah, they have a veteran offensive coordinator. But they need to start executing on the field. Hopefully by adding in veterans like Stephon Diggs and Carlton Davis will help get them to that goal. But like I said before, if you're looking for an AFC sleeper team, if you're a bettor and you are looking at over-under win totals, you're looking at sleeper teams in the NFL, the New England Patriots are an absolutely great pick to go with this season among the teams in the AFC. With that being said, that wraps up this week's edition of the RG Weekly. As always, you can follow us on YouTube at the RG Media 1, where we have all the latest interviews, all the latest analysis. So make sure you check out that and you subscribe. Until next time, guys, I'll see you next week.